Eyup cock. We are going to be doing our League One predictions for this weekend's games and Thursdays, which includes Port Vale and Cardiff. Let's have a look at the scores on the doors, baby. Huddersfield top the league with a 3-goal difference. Second is Barnsley. Shit. And a bottom four of Leyton, Orient, Reading, Bolton and Northampton. But obviously the first game remains absolutely niche. It's not even worth looking at table until like 46 games in. Now last week I did okay. I got 7 results right in terms of teams that I actually thought I'd win. But it's a new week. Let's get in there. Cardiff were comfortably better side against Peterborough, and that's for putting out quite a young, weaker squad in terms of what you'd actually expect from Cardiff. That Capaccio, the right back, absolutely outstanding footballer, and he's only a kid and all, but he looks really good. And if they could sweep aside Peterborough like fairly easily in terms of how the actual game went, and that's where what 4 or 5 of the actual starters that they probably have, like Robinson, Robertson, all these type of boys, of Chambers as well. This caliber of player that they didn't even have playing for them against Peterborough. Cardiff will be fine this season. They're going to be in that sort of picture anyway. I do still expect sales because they've not let anybody go apart from Callum O'Dowd in terms of sales yet, and the amount of money that you lose from being in League One compared to Championship. I do quite like Cardiff based on that first game. But like I said, I were impressed with Port Vale, who lost away at Rotherham. But at home, I think they'll make it quite an hard place to come and win at. I really do believe that, especially with Darren Moore in charge and the experience that they've got within this team. Tollage is still there. I think they'll be in good nick if he's still there at the end of this window. But for right here and now, I do make Cardiff marginal favourites, and I do think Cardiff will obviously be a lot higher up in table than Port Vale will this time next year. The home aspect, and the fact that it's going to be rocking for first game, I think police are going to have a great job on in this game with Port Vale and Cardiff. But I do fancy a draw. To be honest, I'm going to go with 1 apiece to get us going here. Peterborough and Luton. Obviously, Peterborough, like we've just addressed, they lost to Cardiff last week. This is 12:30 on Saturday now, and Luton won 1-0 in opening game against Wimbledon. Now, I'm very impressed with Wimbledon's defensive side of things there, and I do think Luton struggle to break a side like that down. But also, I do think every video from now until window shut-in, I'll probably be addressing new signings that Luton have made and the fact that they're stronger than what they were last week. So, yeah, they weren't playing most free-flowing attacking football ever against a very strong defensive unit in Wimbledon. But Luton have strengthened since then. They've brought Jerry Yates in, who's probably going to start straight away in this game, or I'll be on bench at least. And also, no disrespect to Peterborough, but they are so much easier to play against than what Wimbledon will be. Peterborough are going to like to play out front back and try and spring on counter-attacks. Obviously, we saw it a couple of times against Cardiff. They can make it work. Like, they got through a few times against Cardiff, and I do think they'll get odd chance here against Luton as well. But Luton, I think, could have a field day here. I just really do. I think the better sides, I think it's coming across that I don't like Peterborough, when in reality I couldn't care less. But the better sides will just sweep Peterborough aside with how easy they are to carve open. And I think the experience that Luton have got and the odd bit of creative genius like a Liam Walsh or something in middle, or Saville, to be fair as well, I think they will take piss. I think Luton will come here and have majority at ball, probably most at shots. I do think Peterborough will score though. Don't get me wrong, Luton didn't have much to do in terms of defending against Wimbledon. But there were a couple of times that Wimbledon looked like they were sparking a counter, and they were finding little pockets in between defence and midfield, and I think Peterborough could take advantage of that where Wimbledon couldn't. So I think Peterborough will score, but I'd go for a repeat of Peterborough's last game. I think they will lose 2-1. I've got Peterborough 1, Luton 2 for this one. Reading and Huddersfield. Oh, that's quite a tasty one, that. Obviously, Reading lost 2-0 against Lincoln first game, but again, quite similar to Luton, just not on the same scale. Every few days, it feels like Reading are adding a bit more talent. They've obviously lost Nibs to Charlton, but they've brought in Doyle on loan from Brighton, who looks really sharp, same position. But they looked a bit wishy-washy about Reading, and I think Huddersfield will absolutely take living piss in terms of that. Huddersfield genuinely look like the finished article already. They look complete. I know, obviously, with the amount of money that they've spent, you'd expect that, but it is a lot of players and a new manager all at once that just immediately hit ground running against what is going to be an half decent Leyton Orient side. I know they're obviously bottom at league after one game, but they'll score a few goals, Leyton Orient, well, I'm telling you. And Leyton Orient did make the odd very good chance against Huddersfield. They obviously post with Connolly. There were a ball, I said this other day, but there were a ball that Chroma put in towards back post that should have been finished off, really. So I do think Huddersfield can be got at defensively, but the variety of different goals that Huddersfield scored in that one game alone just shows to me like they've got a lot. They've got a lot going forward. And obviously Reading have got a bit about them going forward as well. I know they didn't really lay a glove on Lincoln, but I think they will here. I will give Reading a goal again, but second game in a row, I am going for an away win. I will go for Reading 1, Huddersfield 2 again. Wimbledon and Lincoln. You know, straight away, I'm just thinking a 0-0. Like something disgusting and like that. Like yeah, 100%. Wimbledon and Lincoln. There's always goals with Lincoln though. But I think Wimbledon are going to try and make it a proper, very hard place to go. And I think, obviously, it's shown in the first game Luton away, which is it's effectively your hardest game of season out away, innit? And defensively, they were very solid, and that is clearly the game plan that they're going to go for in terms of, even if we go down, we're not going to go down with 100 goals. You know what I mean? It's going forward that slightly worried about them. I'm relying on set pieces and the fitness side of things and how good they are with out ball. But Lincoln are quite well drilled. They've obviously made a lot of changes defensively as well. I just think it'll be two sides that cancel each other out. I said it at the start of this. There's nothing changing my mind. I can't gaslight myself. I'm not talking to anybody, am I? You can't disagree with me right now in the flesh. So I've got Wimbledon 0, Lincoln 0. Now, if I know my Barnsley, my dearly beloved Barnsley, after beating Plymouth away on first game, and getting one of your hardest games of the season out away nice and early with the amount of stuff that we've got going on and the unfinished team and an unfair red card and injury to his defence and the amount of kids that we've seen that game out, it's so us to lose 1-0 here. Burton obviously won 2-1 in their opening game against Mansfield thanks to two really good finishes from that Charlie Webster at middle of the park. But Mansfield did look quite good in it as well. And obviously, based on last season, Burton on a really good run of form when they come to our place. And we were awful at time. And how we did not win that game, I will truly never know. Just like lack of clinicalness at top end of pitch is what cost us there. But we drew 0-0 with him. So I know for a fact that how good we are going forward, we will have a lot of chances in this game. Regardless of what result is, we will have a lot of shots. And I do think, based on the clinicalness that we showed against Plymouth, like we could have put a lot more past them as well, in fairness, especially in the second half, amount of like one-on-ones and stuff we had. It's just if we can actually finish his dinner, and I do genuinely think we will. Now, I was very fair with my prediction for us away at Plymouth. I said that we'd draw, we ended up winning. I'm gonna really stick my neck out here for Burton at home, but I think we will win 2-0. I know, even with the defensive side of things that we've got going on, I expect a defender to be in for this game, and it wouldn't surprise me if Burton do come here and nick a 1-0. Let me just put that on the record right now. Would not be surprised this time next week I'm sat here saying that we've lost, but I will go Barnsley 2, Burton 0. Bolton and Plymouth, two what will be top sides by the time that it's done. Both showed little bits of hope and a glimmer of quality throughout the games, even though they did both lose their opening game. Bolton obviously lost 2-0 away at Stockport, despite me, personally, I think they were a better side. And Plymouth lost 3-1 at home to Barnsley. Now, I expect this to be a very good game, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm a bit gutted that it's on a 3 o'clock and not like an R5 or something. But obviously, with Plymouth coming from arse end of nowhere, it wouldn't be quite fair sticking them on telly all the time, despite them being a good side in this league. I do think Bolton's wingers could take the living piss out of Plymouth. That's the only thing that I'm thinking immediately, just from watching both of these games for the first one. I know it is only one game and you've not got loads to go off, but Bolton's wingers were best players on pitch in that game, and Plymouth's defensive issues are very clear to see. The thing is, Plymouth going forward do offer like quite a bit. Callum looks very, very sharp. I expect him to have a different couple of players by the time Saturday's here compared to what they played against us. But defensively, I can't ignore how crap they truly are. They lost battle at middle of park against us as well, and I think they will to Bolton as well. Bolton's midfield is very good. But just with the bits that they showed, I do think Plymouth will get a goal. But Bolton's midfield being very dominant compared to Plymouth's, and the wingers, I do genuinely think this would be won and lost down whips, and I think Bolton have got better of them. So I will go a 2-1 home win for Bolton. Exeter and Blackpool. Well, Exeter obviously lost 1-0 away at Donny last week, but the actual stats from that game showed that they got absolutely arseholed. Blackpool, despite it looking like a fair result that they did lose, Blackpool defensively looked quite leaky. And did obviously lose at home to Stevenage. Blackpool, obviously, with the players that they've got and the manager that they've got and the incomings that they're consistently making and players that they're being linked to, Blackpool have got high ambitions this season. It's very clear to see. And going to an Exeter side that I'm just not convinced on, I'm not going to lie. Like, they did get absolutely annihilated by Donny in terms of the stats and everything. I've said it many times, the best player that Exeter have got is stood in between sticks, that's on loan from Palace Whitworth. Blackpool last season did double on Exeter, and in the last 8 appearances between them both, they've not lost once, they've won 6. So I do genuinely just expect a Blackpool winner, I'm not going to lie to you. There's a lot of away wins here, you know, as well. But I do fancy probably another 1-0. I think Blackpool are defensively leaky, as proven by the Stevenage game. But Exeter just won't show as much going forward as what Stevenage did. I think it'll be a very scrappy, low-quality game, but I do think Blackpool probably nick a 1-0 fairly late nihilist. That's what I'd say. 1-0 Blackpool. Leyton, Orient and Wigan. Two very contrasting starts. Wigan arguably looked the best in terms of like at what the score could have been. They obviously won 3-1 against Northampton. And defensively, very strong, as you'd expect from Wigan, but they could have conceded a couple. I know they conceded one, but they could have conceded another one. It was very close to being squeaky arse time if Cameron McGeehan could have sorted his feet out in time. But you'd said that defensive side of things is a strong point for Wigan. Leyton Orient obviously coming off back at heaviest defeat at opening game, losing 3-0 away at Huddersfield. They're obviously not the same personnel-wise as what they were last year, but it will also take time to gel. They've brought a lot of new players in. And I know so have Huddersfield, but at a certain quality and a certain level of experience, it's a lot easier to gel all these players at once compared to the lads that Leyton Orient have brought in. I do think there'll be goals in this. I'm not going to lie. Leyton Orient, especially at their place towards back end of last season, there were a lot of goals at either end flying in. And I do think it'll be the same here. I'm not so keen on an away win as I am with some other fixtures, because I do think Leyton Orient, at home especially, will be a little bit better. They could go and get like tonked a few times away, like obviously as seen by Huddersfield. But I don't think at home it'll be that sort of case, especially because West Ham aren't playing, so you'd expect it to be quite full. I fancy some goals. And to be honest, I fancy a draw. I'll go for a Desi. I'll go for 2 apiece, Leyton Orient and Wigan. Mansfield and Donny. Oh, no. See, that's just a draw as well, innit? That screams draw. Mansfield, like I've said, they did lose 2-1 to Burton away, but it were for 2 really good shots from edge at box and not so much them being absolutely carved to bits. They weren't like slicing through them like really easily. And I think Mansfield, obviously with Clough in charge, I've got a lot to be quite excited about. I do think they'll be fine. Donny showed quite a lot to me in that first game. I know it was only a penalty that won it, and perhaps a lack of clinical biting edge is what made them not absolutely slap Exeter up, but they did still win, and that's all that matters. Mansfield are an harder side to play than Exeter, definitely, especially away from home. I am struggling to pick something here. I might go for the draw. That was my immediate thought, and it didn't fail me last week, so I will go for a 1 apiece for Mansfield and Donny. But it could be quite a good game, that. Quite end-to-end. Northampton versus Yes Cuzzy. I'm surprised that Northampton didn't get absolutely annihilated in terms of scoreline last week. They were obviously getting slapped about by a massive Wigan schlong. They've only come out of it with a 3-1 loss, but despite obviously being close with the Cameron McGeehan thing, like I just addressed with the Wigan fixture, it would not have looked out of place after watching highlights and stats to have seen Northampton lose 5-6-1. I think Bradford could arguably be more clinical than Wigan will. 2-1 winners at home to Wycombe. I got that one bang on. Thank you very much, but that's due to Mike Dodds being absolutely horrendous at his job. Bradford, I said this in my pre-season predictions, I did it last week. Bradford at home, I think, will be a different beast compared to what they will away. I think they will lose a lot of away games. I really do. They're going to take loads of away fans everywhere because it's the first time they've been here in ages and the fan base is generally good. It's quite a northern league, but a smaller way like Northampton, I expect them to sell out the majority of games. So noise and backing ain't something that I'm worried for them. The actual quality, legs, and maybe lack of respect, I think, could get him slapped up in a couple of games, Bradford, especially against some of your bigger sides. Because Bradford are coming here, and especially at first game, they're going to be brimming with confidence after beating a playoff side from last season and think, yeah, we just belong here. Which they do, in fairness, but the team does not warrant that arrogance right now. Northampton, obviously crap first game, but at home I do think they'll be different. They were very hot and cold all the way through last season, and it won't surprise me being the same thing here. I will go with a draw again, but a 1-1 for Northampton and Bradford. Stevenage and Rotherham. 2 impressive wins last week for very different reasoning. Rotherham were very good in first half, and then after playing 10 men for an hour, they decided to just sit back and have squeaky arseholes for the entire second half, which was really daft. But Rotherham first half were quite good. Very clinical, non-by up front, and some of the balls that they were putting in were very impressive. Stevenage, arguably the most impressive result at weekend, going to Blackpool and winning. Defensively, they will be really good, especially at home, but they were getting sliced a little bit too easily by Blackpool. Now, Rotherham, I don't think are as good as Blackpool. I think that's obviously a given if you've seen the predictions that I've done. And Stevenage's own form last season actually just weren't even that good. For a side that finished fairly mid-table and had a really good year by their standards, I expect a lot better from them at home, especially how good they can be defensively. But they're definitely suited more to being underdog and trying to play teams that counter-attack, really. They're better at soaking up pressure with the personnel that they've got and then trying to spring on counters. And I think Rotherham might play into their hands a little bit here. I do think Rotherham will probably have more at ball, maybe have more at shots in terms of players that they've got in certain positions. But I do back Stevenage here for probably, we'll go boring, I'm going 2-1. I've got to say it, guys, I know it's not 5-2 and stuff like that, but I do think Stevenage will win 2-1 against Rotherham. This might have a little bit more about it, though. Wycombe and Stockport for the last game. Wycombe, obviously, like I've just said, they lost 2-1 away at Bradford in first game. Stockport, despite being the worst side, I thought, on the day, ended up winning 2-0 against Bolton. Now, Wycombe have obviously strengthened since then. They've brought George Abbott in on loan from Tottenham, which is a really good addition at Middle Park. That now marks the end of the Connell pursuit And to be honest, I'm obviously back in Stockport. I think that goes without saying with the things that I've previously said. Mighty Dodds, I really just don't rate. And the Coney situation still ain't resolved. Is still there. They're not going to play him at a 1-4. Maybe they do, but I doubt they're going to play him when it's just a matter of when, not if he is sold. So they've still not got the money to then reinvest in their attacking lineup. And I think they will really lack a bit of firepower going forward because of it. The midfield's really good. They've packed it out quite well. There's a lot of creativity within this side, but nobody to finish the dinner. Against a Stockport side that absorbed loads of pressure against Bolton and did ride the luck to an extent, definitely. Amount of balls that were like pinged across box that weren't finished. But I think it'll be the same sort of vibe here. I think Wycombe might create quite a bit, but just not score. And Stockport, we've seen what they can do under pressure. They're not shy. They can play in so many different styles. They've got a very experienced manager and squad. And especially going forward, I think they've got a lot of talent up front. Obviously, and the defensive side of things as well. Oluwu and that other fella, the Finnish player, didn't play. I don't know whether that's still going to be a case, but they're only going to get stronger as season goes on. Stockport, I might go for the exact same scoreline. I might go for another 2-0. I'm going to. Wycombe 0, Stockport 2 to see it out. But that's it, boys. That felt really quick recording that. Absolute pleasure. Love you all. Kiss. Make sure you like, subscribe if you do enjoy. Oh, and Barnsley are going to be top at league after game week 2, baby. See you in a bit.
Say I'm a man, yes, I'm a mucker. I think of me saying as a right good looker. I say up that. Show us bit it.